And we're live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Committee on Education, Tuesday the 23rd of February, 2021. Councilmember Bowman.
Present.
Councilmember Nowakowski.
Present.
Councilmember Wyatt.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera. Quorum is present.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to our Education Committee meeting. We are going to start by taking item number 8 off the table and out of order. Sean, could you call that item, please?
Item number 8, Radford request to speak at the Education Committee.
Nope, I guess it's not number 8 then. On my agenda, I have it's regarding the reopening of schools amid COVID.
Sure, that's item number 7, reopening schools amid COVID-19.
All right, thank you. That's the one. I just wanted to revisit this item to give an opportunity for Dr. Cresces to give us a little bit of an update on how the reopening and funneling students back into the school is going. From all appearances, it seems to be going well. And so just looking for a little bit of update and see what next steps are, any challenges you're facing. But thank you very much, Dr. Cresces.
Right. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to you and your distinguished colleagues. There is a PowerPoint, but in the interest of time, I know the staff has the PowerPoint. Maybe it can just be distributed to council members, and I can briefly give you some high points, and we don't have to do the PowerPoint. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, thank you.
So you're right. We did have, February was a great month for our opening. We are looking forward to the next steps in phasing in our students' return. The key thing to remember there is that is really driven by the medical advice and guidance that we're receiving from our medical director and his team. In a district of our size, we just can't say, here's the timetable and it's going to be this group and this group, because we're too big. And if we make one false move, the Buffalo School District will be responsible for being the largest super spreader of this virus in Western New York. So we are proceeding carefully, but expeditiously, because we know certainly the superintendent's priority to have our children back in school. And we certainly know the hardship for parents, despite their heroic efforts. We know that this has been a real challenging experience for parents. So there's no doubt about that. One of the things that has been a key focus of our principals and staff in the buildings has been attending to the social emotional wellness needs of our students. So really that is a top focus of what staff does every day with our students, whether it's online or in person. And that's because, as the superintendent is fond of saying, you can't just say, turn to page 12 and let's get working when, the spirits of our children are really struggling because of this virus. So you would find that each morning is starting in our schools with a circle time in which students pick a number from 1 to 5 of how they're feeling today, with 5 being the best. And what that is an opportunity for a discussion to take place between the adults in our buildings and the children, to just give kids a safe space in which they can share their feelings about how they're doing. And then we in turn support them and take next steps to do so. That forms the foundation of the real focus as we begin bringing kids back. And that is, we're going to attend to their social emotional needs first. And we're going to address all of the learning recovery and all of the issues dealing with keeping them on track as another priority. The groups that were targeted were 3 groups in the first phase of the opening. Our neediest students, so students who had some profound disability issues or other types of situations where we knew they needed to be in school 5 days a week. There were our pre-K to 2 students who are on a hybrid schedule, and there are our seniors in high school. So the district right now is evaluating with its medical professionals what the next part of the phase in is going to be, and there should be a fairly timely announcement about that. The superintendent has made clear that his objective is to try to have students as many students as possible on a hybrid schedule throughout the month of March, and then certainly have everyone in place, by the end of the year. But one last remark to make. Just like other public school districts around the country, certainly around New York State, it will be a hybrid situation going forward until those obligations under CDC guidance and state guidance are lifted with regard to social distancing. So the other final point I want to make is that Buffalo is one of the last districts in the area that continues to do the 20 to 30% weekly COVID testing, random COVID testing. We don't have to do it, and most school districts are no longer doing it since the governor lifted the color code designations for the region. But the reason we're doing it is because we think you want to know what the infection rate is in a particular school, a particular classroom. We certainly know that parents want that information, and the superintendent has been very clear, we're not going to deprive our constituents of knowing what's actually going on in the health of our district. So those are just a few high points, and I can certainly take any questions from your colleagues, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, and thank you very much for the update. Colleagues, do you have any questions? Councilmember Wyatt.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Caresses. Dr. Caresses, can you, because maybe I missed it, the next step of children going to school is what? Additional children?
Yeah, it hasn't been determined yet.
Okay.
That'll be based on who and when is the recommendation from the medical director of the district, Dennis Quo, and his team. So more to come on that, but I can absolutely assure you that the superintendent has the highest sense of urgency around the next phase. Now, I can tell you this, Councilmember Wyatt, it will likely be a combination of what it was in the past. A group of students that has some type of need that is now assessed that they should be back in school, another set of elementary grade levels, and another set of high school grade levels or level. So it'll be kind of split up between high school and elementary. So that has been some of the discussion that has happened, but no decision has been made just yet on that.
Was there a final decision as far as teachers being vaccinated? Because I know that that's still a concern, and there's been a lot of conversation. And I've also heard that there are teachers who are reluctant to even get vaccinated. So can you just speak about that issue?
Yeah, I have not heard of any large numbers of teachers being reluctant to get vaccinated. I do know that Dr. Cash has had ongoing conversations with the governor's office with regard to really opening up the school district, however the governor may want to use it, for the purpose of vaccinating teachers or the general public. He put that offer on the table over a month ago. It continues to be an offer that he puts out there because we really, we're concerned that even though teachers were apparently released as a priority group to get vaccinated, it's still a roll of the dice with what I understand is this thing that teachers have to engage in with staying on the internet as long as you can to try to get an appointment. And my wife tells me that's why she hasn't been able to get an appointment, because she's not able to make that time. And then we hear about people, who they try for the first time and they get it, and there's other people who are still waiting for their appointment from January. So, but the bottom line is whatever those issues are, Dr. Cash has made very clear to the governor's office that we are ready, willing, and able to support a mass vaccination platform by using our facilities however they need to be used. Certainly with the targeting of teachers as one of the largest employee groups in the city of Buffalo, that would put us in a position to have more parents, successfully bring their kids back, for schools to open bigger and more boldly. There are a lot of benefits that the superintendent articulated, and we're kind of waiting to hear, what's next on that.
Yeah, because when I hear about, the CDC and they're talking about opening schools and they're not making it a priority for teachers to be vaccinated, I'm just trying to, understand how do you square that hole. It just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. But, I think parents would feel a whole lot better if they knew teachers were vaccinated. I'm sure teachers will feel a lot better to be vaccinated and to be able to do their job. So thank you for that information. And last thing, and you may not know this one, do you know what the district is looking to spend as far as PPE for this rollout for additional children, and what the maximum amount that you're going to spend once you, let's say you get maybe 50% possibly? You know that number?
I don't have that number, but what I will do is follow up with our CFO of estimates of, what has been spent. I know that he's updated the board on all that. So let me dig into that and I'll send something over to your office.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome, colleagues. Any other questions? Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you very much. I was glad to hear that the superintendent Cash has offered the use of the district schools as a place where they can hold mass vaccination. There are a number of council members here today that sit on the Health Equity Task Force, and one of the things, or one of the concerns we have, is the rollout of the vaccination. Right now, I don't know where to send people to. I know that they're holding vaccination at Greider Delavan Community Center. I'm not sure if it's at 14215. I'm not sure what district it's in. But we're concerned that it should be more amply available throughout the city in different places. I'd like to see it in 4 corners of the city where people can go. And you're absolutely right. There are people calling our office with underlying conditions, asking me, where do I go? And if I send them to Jericho Road, they're not doing it right now. They don't have vaccinations. If I send them to Urban Family Practice, they're private practitioners. They're not federally qualified health centers, so they're not doing it over there. So we really don't know. And if they go on a computer, just like your wife, you mentioned, sometimes you're online for hours and you can't get through. And we're having people contact us to find out where they can get their vaccines. And I think it has to be more readily available. And I think we should piggyback on what the superintendent is doing and ask the state to consider the schools as a site for vaccination for the teachers and for the parents and residents that live within that area.
Right.
I'm not sure if the council members have received calls regarding vaccination and how difficult it is, and how, the process is not very clear. As a matter of fact, I've had my staff work on trying to identify where are the sites, what are the dates for doing it, what are the qualifications for doing it, to make sure that these people don't fall through the cracks. And we have people that are really, really sick with cancer who have called and asked to be considered. And all I can do is try to get information and disseminate it. But I was so glad to hear you say that the superintendent is considering using, or offered to use, the district schools as a site for these vaccination. I think we should piggyback on it as Common Council and ask our state delegation to talk to the governor and to make sure that these vaccines are made available throughout the city of Buffalo in different zip codes, 14213, 14207, 14215, and whichever district in your zip code. But we have to do more to get this out there. And I don't know what our numbers are locally in terms of the city, in terms of the region, the county. I don't know where our numbers are comparably to other cities and counties. But we should do more to make sure the vaccines are made available to more people.
Thank you, Councilmember. And yeah, like you said, I think we're all getting those calls right now, and it's really difficult to have residents calling and not necessarily have the answer for them right now. And my office is just trying to disseminate information best as possible. But, we're all kind of waiting for more vaccines to pour in. Thank you, Dr. Cressis, for this update. Very much appreciate your controlled, outlook and taking care of it. Councilmember Nowakowski.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question in reference to something that Dr. Crestis brought up earlier. Does BPS intend to keep testing at the 20% level until the foreseeable future? Or?
Yes, the superintendent has said we have the tests, we're going to use them. And he has set no timetable to sunset that.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up on something from Councilmember Rivera's comments, it reminded me of the history lesson that we learned from H1N1, which I know you all remember. But to his point about the four corners, when the vaccine supply finally came for H1N1, the district was relied upon for the setting up the vaccination centers. And we did it exactly as the Councilmember Rivera stated, north, south, east, and west, picked a high profile school, and the county set up its vaccination sites there. So imagine, with COVID being, a much more deadly situation for us. Imagine if there were one or two high profile schools in each one of your districts that were the vaccination centers for you. Everyone knows where Riverside High is or where McKinley High School is, or we pick the schools that have the biggest parking lots or whatever, but everyone knows where our schools are. And imagine if you had two in each of your districts that could serve as these epicenters for vaccinations. That's what Dr. Cash was envisioning, because in most cases, our schools are on a pretty decent transportation route as well for the NFTA. So just food for thought, but I wanted to mention that after hearing Councilmember Rivera's comments.
Absolutely. I definitely appreciate that. And that's kind of, we've been working with the Equity Task Force, and I've also spoken with representatives from the Health Department, and we're saying the same thing, or even community centers. But I do like the idea of schools, our senior centers, but it's about accessibility. Not everyone has transportation to get to the convention center if that's, one of our mass vaccination sites. So definitely something we're thinking about too, and I appreciate that. That's really smart thinking. At this point, I'd like to leave this item on the table, and maybe at next Education Committee, if you could just continue to update us on the status and the progress.
Yep,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Motion to table. Yep, motion to table, seconded by Councilmember Nowakowski. Then Sean, if you could take it from the top.
Item number 1, serving halal breakfast and lunch options in Buffalo Public Schools.
Thank you, Sean. Councilmember Nowakowski and I received this letter from Mr. Rahman from the Muslim. He is from our Buffalo Muslim Community Services location on Broadway. And what Mr. Rahman is asking is that we consider having halal food options in our Buffalo Public School lunches, which Councilmember Nowakowski and I also filed a resolution to get moving. So we're excited about the potential, and the district has been very open to discussion. We met previously and we had meaningful discussion. So at this point, just a little housekeeping. If we could keep our comments to, looks like we have a lot of speakers on the line. So if we could all keep our comments to about 3 minutes, so everyone gets an opportunity to speak. And we also have a couple items after this for business. But I will kick it to Mr. Rahman, who sent us the letter in the first place. If you could unmute yourself, sir.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everybody, the Board of Education and the distinguished members of the Common Council. And it is our heartfelt thanks for you to give us the opportunity to speak in front of the committee. Okay, so I'm gonna, the other member, my name is Atikur Rahman, and I'm one of the director of the Buffalo Muslim Community Services, and other directors is also present in the meeting. And I'd like to mention that we have 3 also distinguished scholars from our community, and they have in-depth knowledge about this issue, and then I'm going to give you actually a small amount within 3 minutes, the briefing, and then if you may have any question, is Maulana Asim Ahmed, and it's a Mufti Burhan, and also Dr. Aminul Islam. These are the three distinguished speakers we have in our presence. So I will request you to give them 3 minutes, and then they will, if you may have any deeper question about this one, they will provide you, inshallah, in accordingly. But I like to introduce my, Buffalo Muslim Community Services. We established during the 2018. We are all our volunteers. It's a not-for-profit organizations, and we are working for the community, for the development, socio-economic development of the community. So we are doing the things like we are cleaning the streets, beautifying the area. We are installing the safety and security. We install a lot of cameras with the help of the constituents on this area to minimize the what they call safety and security of the area. And we also spending a lot of time during the, especially in the summertime, to clean all the streets of this area. And also we are doing the patrolling to see, and helping. And during the pandemic time, we are providing foods and helping the elderly and the other members of the family, the community, if they might need any kind of help. So now I'm coming to the point about the halal food. As I mentioned to you that, our scholars will answer all your questions if you have any. And that during, it's a strict dietary guidelines as a Muslim, whatever we consume. So for that reason, a lot of our Muslim students are attending in the Buffalo Public Schools, and out of them, some of them they are not, attending with the lunchtime with other students, and not that even getting the foods from the schools. And also, some of the students bring their own food from their home, and sometimes if they don't bring anything, they're not eating anything for the all day long. So this is an issue also, and it is also hampering the communication gaps between they cannot get along with the other students during the lunchtime. So I don't like to take that much time. That's it, and I'm requesting you again, if you have any deeper question, we have 3 scholars online right now. You can answer anything. Thank you very much.
Sure. Yep. And if you could just help me out, I don't have a list, but I know you mentioned Asim wanted to speak, so I'll move it to Asim and allow him to have 3 minutes now.
Thank you, sir.
How's everyone doing? I know it says Faisal Ansari, but my name is Asim Ahmed. I'm still learning how to use Zoom. Okay.
Welcome.
So yes, this is a basic obligation for us. It's one of our basic dietary guidelines that we only eat halal. I have 5 children. Since I'm in an Islamic school, my children are in Islamic school, it's not a very difficult job to make sure that my children eat halal. But for those children who are going to the public school, most of them get left out. So they either, as Atikur Rahman was saying, they either have to bring food from the house, or they just don't eat at all. And I think I was born and raised here. I don't think it's very difficult for us to be more inclusive by providing some type of halal food program for those children who are Muslims. I mean, if you have any questions regarding what are the requirements and all that, we are more than willing to help in providing the vendors or anything else that's required to simplify the whole process of getting halal food on the tables for the Muslims in the public schools. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if you can just explain, because not everybody understands what halal food is, can you explain what halal food is for the public?
Okay, so halal food specifically refers to meat that is slaughtered in a very specific way. Specific way we mean is that when the animal is slaughtered, it's slaughtered in the name of God, first of all, and that all the blood has been taken out from the body. It's called a consanguinal, slaughter, which means that all the blood is dripped out by cutting of the throat. And it's actually the most tastiest of all meat too. But the thing is that if the meat only becomes halal or kosher after it's cut in that way, with the name of Allah being mentioned and with the slaughter, these are the two main components of meat being halal. So we have many halal food supplies that are here in the area. Also, halal also includes, by the way, the fact that there's nothing in the food that's derived from any animal that's not cut in the proper way. So like when we go to stores, grocery stores, and we are purchasing our supplies, we have to be very, very careful about, generally speaking, the public doesn't even know about this, but we have to be very careful about what are the things, the main ingredients inside in the different items, if they are derived from haram sources, non-kosher sources. For example, mono and diglycerides. Mono and diglycerides comes from vegetable sources, but it also comes from non-vegetable sources. There's also, for example, glycerin or enzymes of different types. Some of them are vegetable, some of them are non-vegetable, some are synthetic, okay? So we have to be very careful about that as well. So it's not just meat itself, but it's also, for example, a lot of the foods that are provided. I remember when I was going to school, there was ice creams that were not halal because they had mono and diglycerides, or they had lard in them. In those days they had lard. I don't see that anymore now. So that's one thing that's easier for us. So it's not about just providing halal meat, kosher meat. It's also about making sure whatever's on that table for the Muslim child, if there's any processed food like an ice cream or something of that sort, that the ingredients in that are 100% halal.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
even in this process, it's kind of a learning process, for me as well. And it seems, through the way it's prepared, it ultimately becomes a healthier option.
Absolutely.
If I may ask the next speaker, who's up, if they can unmute themselves and speak.
This is Imam Burhanuddin from the Halal Monitoring Services. I'd like to first thank Mr. Chairman and all of his colleagues and all of the members today here who have accommodated us and also are concerned about the needs and demands of their constituency, about the religious issues, the dietary matters related to that, of these kids who are our children, who are growing up in our schools, who have a right to have a lunch with their friends and without compromising their religion. That is what it's all about. I also like to thank Sheikh Asim. He gave a very nice talk about what halal is, explaining what it is. I just like to very briefly tell you who we are as an organization. HMS, Halal Monitoring Organization Services, is a nonprofit organization that is New York State Agriculture and Meats Department approved and USDA approved for for halal monitoring. We pretty much work at the slaughterhouse level all the way down to the stores and the vendors level, where there is no there is compliance with halal at every step of the way. We have monitoring agreements with these businesses, and we have an extensive supply of halal from all over America, excuse me, that's made available to the Muslims, generally easily available to them. So, and we do our work. We are a group of imams, a group of scholars who do our work for a nonprofit basis, and we don't even charge for our monitoring at the retail level. What we do is pretty much we check that the animal is being slaughtered properly, and we check that there's no mixing happening at the distribution level, and there's no mixing happening at the store or, in your case, cafeteria level. So in terms of implementing the halal, there are certain things that do need to be brought up to our attention that maybe it's not exactly the scope of today's discussion, but they should be incorporated in the discussion. Number one, where is the meat going to come from? Like Sheikh Asim said, we can help you with that. We can get the vendors for you. We can make all of that happen easily. We're here for your help in that. Number two, how to ensure that it is halal compliant at your school level. So what we do is when we go, we have here in New York City, we are based out of New York City and Chicago. So in New York City, we have a pilot halal program that started a year and a half ago. And we helped in getting the meat supplied to them. And then we have another organization here that we're working very closely with who's doing the actual monitoring. What we do is when we walk into the school, we set up an audit plan pretty much, identifying the control points, the critical control points of where the mixing could happen, where the religious beliefs could be impeded upon of these children who are our students who are looking for halal, and they are being told, yeah, you're going to get halal here, and this is, they make sure there's no mixing in it. And it's not a very complicated process, but you can identify when you walk in at the delivery point, at the storage point, at the preparation point, at the cooking, etc., etc. So you can imagine that if you were to provide a vegan option for those of your constituents who are concerned about that, you would have to ensure certain things are in place to make sure there's no cross-contamination. So halal has that aspect in it. And one last thing, the meat is the main concern. We want to make that sure, we want to make that clear. The second priority is what Sheikh Asim said is most definitely important for us. The breads and the ice cream, the cheese, the other ingredients that are used in there, those are fairly easy and simple to implement. It's in New York City here, what we did is pretty much we went through all of the different ingredients and products that are used. They gave us a database of it, and we sat and we literally, verified they're either plant source or synthetically produced. And it wasn't a complicated process. There was very little that needed to be changed, because we found that the mainstream companies that are providing to the school districts are providing usually non-animal derivatives because of other concerns that are there. We have different religious groups, we have different ethical groups, we have different ethnic groups who don't want to involve themselves in these meat issues. So that it made our job a lot easier in the bread and in the other matters. So that shouldn't be something that scares us. The meat is the main thing. Having a segregated or a separate menu that will be produced, that will be made for the student without having any contamination, and how we can have that monitoring done. We are here to help, and we are here to provide our services, extend our services, and we hope that you are able to consider this and include this in your plan.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, Imam. And you bring up some very good points, and I think you'll be instrumental. But this was already done in New York City. I believe there's roughly 30 schools that have options in their on their lunch menu right now. And you mentioned vegan options, and Buffalo Public School, I believe, do have some vegan options currently. But it's definitely something to look into. Councilmember White, do you have a question? You're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Aman, just what the percentage of students are Muslim in New York City, and do we know the percentage of Muslim students in Buffalo?
In New York City, I can tell you New York City, Sheikh Asim can tell you Buffalo. New York City is a 10% a Muslim population overall. And we found that some schools, based on the areas, based on the districts, some schools have up to 90% Muslim student population.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. And at this point, we'll go to our next speaker. If you could just unmute yourself. And just remember, 3 minutes, please. I see someone has unmuted themselves. El Manar.
Yes, I'm trying to get my video on. Please give me a few seconds.
Sure.
Some reason. Okay, I got it. Jazakallah khair. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, for giving me a chance to talk. to a beautiful forum. I have seen many leaders from the city of Buffalo. MashaAllah, it is my pleasure to talk in front of you. Many of you I have seen personally when I have an open house when I was opening a school at 29 Claymore Street, the Lovejoy Fillmore School Districts, and the present and the past councilman was visiting at the same time. It was my very pleasure time. So at this time, I like to mention, yes, I know both speakers, they speaks related to the halal food and the definition of halal food and all of these things. I just like to touch one of the area that's so crucial. Alhamdulillah, God gave me a chance to establish the 3 schools in the United States. All of them, they're running, and I was the principal among 5 Islamic schools, including big schools to small schools. I was the principal at Al-Rashid Academy in Lackawanna, and now I'm the founder and the principal of Al-Manar Academy in Buffalo, in the process with, still on the process of to have the certified by the state of New York Education Department. So I have seen students on an empty stomach and the full stomach. Okay, many students when we have seen that empty stomach means no breakfast or no food at home or at a school. Their performance in academic sides is way low, way low. Now, if we think of not only the Muslim children, and particularly any students who does not have a food properly, or some reasons the parents did not taking care of it at home, whatever the cause could be, and their performance is going down. So number of populations at this time, I like to mention probably about maybe 5 to 8% Muslim students in Buffalo School District. And the numbers are increasing, by the way. These numbers are increasing. You have seen a long time ago, a few years ago, in newspapers, saying 1 block at a time. 1 block at a time means taking over by Bangladeshi community. It's happened to be a majority Muslims. But anyway, the students in Buffalo School Districts are increasing. Muslim students are increasing. I am sure, the superintendent has better data, maybe. I'm not sure yet, but what I'm saying at this time, so the Muslim students, when they go to the schools, sometimes the parents could not provide the food. Sometimes they rely on, the school district's food. As you know, the school district itself is the poverty level is more than 70%. So as a result, whole school districts is qualified for free lunch and the breakfast programs as well. By the federal funded, the programs. So at this times, what I like to mention here, if the Muslim students have opportunity to have a nice breakfast at school and the food, I believe the performance for academic sides will be much better than at present time. So it will bring our school district a good name when they have a good opportunity going to the better university around the nationwide, I would say the nationwide, the better university. So the school districts will have the same credit at the same time. So it would be, I would say it's a win-win situations at this point. So I would like to urge and request to the school district or, the authority to bring the halal food at the Buffalo School Districts. That would be a good one, and the good programs, not only for the Muslim kids, it is good for the school district as well. So I would take my microphone off. If you have any concern or questions, I'm here.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Possibly could be it. I see MD Kareem is on from Buffalo Bangalore. And so I think that's all, unless anybody else wants to speak at this time. Dr. Caresses, I'll open it up to you to give us some insight. And if you could also speak to some of the vegan options that are already existing as well. Thank you.
So I definitely want to thank and commend all the speakers today. I feel every time I'm engaged in a conversation around this, I'm getting educated. And I'm a little embarrassed about that. I've been an administrator in this district for close to 25 years now, and we have always had children of faith who want to act on their faith and live out their faith, and we need to help figure out a way to support that during the day because it's such a core part of their identity. And so I'm just so appreciative of this conversation. I'm especially appreciative, um, Councilmember Nowakowski and Councilmember Bowman, for meeting with me a couple months back, for us having this conversation, and really attaching a sense of urgency to it. So I have what I think is a very encouraging update for you, because we have kind of been busy doing some homework around this issue to find out where is the state of the art. And as the gentleman said earlier, New York is kind of a model for a lot of this. So our food service director was in contact with numerous people, not the least of which was staff from New York on this. We think we have found the halal certified foods that would serve our needs well at a high quality level, and then meet the reality of it has to be in the ballpark of affordability so that we could sustain it over time. We don't want to ever engage in something and then it runs into a budget crisis in a bad year, and we have to curtail it or shrink it. We just, if we go forward with this, we want it to go forward as a permanent feature of the district. So we needed to find all of the different leverage points around that. And our food service director, Bridget O'Brien Woods, has reported to me that she's quite confident that we have found the halal certification that has served multiple large districts well, that meets all of the standards that she has to maintain for the reimbursement system that the district is involved in. And what we are now going to be doing is putting a team together, because the approach for us will probably be, we're going to do what we always do with any other type of dietary restriction or circumstance. We will survey the parents who would like to have this menu option available to you. We will have that information captured in the roster of every cafeteria that will be participating. And that will be the meal that is offered to that child, or I should say available to that child if that child wants it. And we do that in some other areas, and you mentioned vegan and this and that. So we already have a system in place to address dietary restrictions or commitments. And we would just need to take that to kind of a bigger scale, particularly at some schools. So here's what we envision. We do envision that we will be ready for next September to start at several schools that probably have the highest populations of Muslim children of faith. And we will have in place kind of the same system we would have for any other dietary consideration. And we will be offering a menu. And I like what I heard from the gentleman, and it was about a separate halal menu so that parents know exactly what they're getting every week, and it's a separate and distinct menu that they can be a part of. We think we're going to be in a position to do that. So more to come on that, but we wouldn't even be in the place we're at right now without the advocacy of the distinguished council members. So we really appreciate you kind of steering us in this direction. It's some really good work.
Wow, that's a great to hear. Great news, Dr. Cresties, and I want to thank you for being always very open to this discussion and welcoming it. So I do have a couple more speakers, but I know Councilmember Nowakowski wants to speak, so I'll call on him, and then we'll fit a couple more speakers in and then wrap it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. When I was speaking to members of my community regarding this weekend, they had asked if I had spoken to the district, and I told them yes. And I told them that when we spoke to Dr. Karesis, he immediately came from a place of, how are we going to do this? There was no question. It was more of an action plan. So I can't thank him enough, and I wanted my my constituents to know that that they have an ally on their side in Dr. Karesis and in the superintendent's office. And as you know, we have in our districts, Councilmember Bowman and myself have thriving Muslim communities that are, changing our neighborhoods in a very positive way. And lunch really is extremely important to the social well-being of students. It's a way where you build friendships and interrelationships with one another during that time, while also recalibrating for the day. And really, it's a matter of equity and inclusion. And it's very important that as our city grows and becomes more diverse, that our organizations, schools, and other facilities adapt to it. And I just want to thank all the speakers that came today to really, support this measure and coalesce around this issue and around Councilmember Bowman and myself. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember White, did you have a?
Yeah, I just wanted to commend the speakers, and Dr. Caressi said it best, sometimes we're embarrassed that we are not as educated as we should be. But I'm really appreciative that the two newest colleagues on the council were very transparent and inclusive to make certain that when we talk about the city of Buffalo, it's an inclusion, not an exclusion. And this is a process, and I think we're going to have a lot of other processes in which we're going to adapt. But it's good news when we have leadership like Dr. Caressi and his superintendent that are open to those opportunities to make certain that we can serve all of our children and all of the families in our community. So this is a very, very, a very, very encouraging conversation, especially the diversity of where we're hearing the information from. We talk about New York City and already incorporating this. And then the fact that Dr. Caressi says in September, we're going to be actually doing this in several schools is huge. So I thank you. I have a growing Muslim community, as you both know as well, and they have been hugely supportive and impactful and very good citizens. And so we want to make certain that we do all we can to make certain that they're fully involved in our communities and not excluded and appreciated and respected. And we all need to learn more, because the information I got today is really kind of mind blowing, but it's something that as individuals and as of people of faith and different gender, we have to make sure we're open to those things and learning, because we don't know it all, but we shouldn't be afraid to learn. So again, thank you all for your participation, and my colleagues for moving this forward, and the school board and Dr. Caressi for making this happen. Thank you again.
Wonderful. Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Chairman Bowman and Councilmember Nowakowski for bringing this to our attention and to the school district. And I want to thank the school district for starting to take some form of action with regards to halal foods in our school. We all represent a wave of new immigrants and refugees and diverse community and minorities. And I think we all do. There are a number of mosques in my district, on Grant Street and on Connecticut Street. And we all have a growing population within our respective districts. This is being inclusive, and I think this is great. And I think this is one of the things you'll look back as a committee chair and say, hey, we were instrumental in doing this. There's always something you go back to that you say, I had something to do with it to make it more inclusive. And I think this will be one that I look at and I'm thinking right now, I says, wow, this is fantastic. This is something that came out of this committee and from these council members, but it impacts the whole city. So I thank you for that. I thank the school district. Now, the school district, as far as moving forward with this program and us disseminating the information, because you said, you mentioned that come September, this is going to be done in different schools, different parts of the district. Can we get that information, how and when it's going to get done, so we can disseminate that information to members of the Muslim community in our respective districts, because I want to make sure that they're aware of what's happening here today as well.
Right. So that's a great question. What I'd like to do with the chairman's permission is maybe give another update at your March meeting. That'll give us about a month. What that will do is allow our team, the staff here will say, this is how we're going to do the survey work, and this is how we're going to communicate it with food service. So we'll have kind of an action plan that takes what I've said and it gives you more specific detail on who's going to do what and what the timetable will be, and maybe even what the schools will be, so you're aware of that. So we'll have that meeting, and then I'll report back to this committee for the March meeting. I don't want to wait any farther than March, because in April, we're already thinking about June. It's, March is good because that means we still have a little time and we want to get this buttoned up. I do have a favor to ask, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name of the gentleman who spoke, and he said that his organization provided some support or a resource to Chicago and to New York. Also, he said, because it was the first time I heard it so clearly about the mixing and how even if you get a prepared set of food, it's also very important about how it's the distribution set up and that's the gentleman. What is your name, sir?
Yes, Imam Burhanuddin. Doctor, thank you. Yes.
I need to get your information. So
we'll have our chief of staff provide that for you, Doctor.
Someone send it to me and to my secretary, the contact information, because I would just like to have a follow-up conversation.
Yes, I was just going to thank you, Doctor, for saying that. I was just requesting from the chairman to just say briefly, just one thing, that whatever steps we're taking now is really investment in this program and investment for our community. So we need to make sure that we take the steps in a correct way so we can have the right product from it, the right results from it. So the technicalities that Doctor was mentioning, I was very interested to find out about, and I was very, very happy to hear that they're thinking about those logistics of how it's going to happen. And I would be very, very happy to offer my services and our organization services, and also the actual certification system of where the meat is going to come from and those kind of things. I think in one word, what I just want to say is the Muslim scholarship, including our organization and Sheikh Asim, who is also on the board right now. Our organizations represent the Muslim scholarship of our community, and the scholarship needs to have some kind of consultation role in this matter to make sure that it is happening in the way that our community doesn't go back later and say, oh, well, we wanted it that way. Why didn't you ask us this way? So I think this is important.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll make sure that information is exchanged. I think it's an important communication for both of you. So it's already in the chat, and then we'll make sure Chief of Staff has it for you, Doctor. I do have to wrap this up just because we have another presentation from the DMV, but we are going to, we'll probably receive and file this item, but the following item is our resolution, the Councilmember Nowakowski, and we will leave that one on the table in order for those speakers to come back in March and speak with us and continue the discussion. This is great news today from Dr. Cressy that we're moving forward in September and that the discussion is commencing with production and some results. So wonderful. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your comments. Councilmember Wyatt.
Councilmember Bowman, before we go to, I know that Dr. Christie has already talked, but a resident sent me a text and wanted me to ask about graduation, that they had any input on graduation for Buffalo Public Schools. If he can just speak to that, that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing yet. If the question is about graduation ceremonies, which I assume that's what it is, nothing yet on that. So if it were me, I would assume that it will be similar to what we did last year, which was socially distanced experiences where principals created graduation opportunities in consultation with their parents and stakeholders. Some of them were held on stages outside outside. Some of them were held in the auditoriums one at a time. I would envision something like that happen. We are quite confident we are not going to be having any mass gatherings of people this school year. But principals will be coming up with plans later in the spring and certainly sharing them with parents. To that point, though, one other thing, the superintendent's clear priority has been made to make sure that seniors stay on track. So to any parents of seniors, it's very important that you seek our help if your child does need assistance staying on track. We really want to make sure that the COVID crisis does not hinder an on-time graduation for any of our seniors.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And at this point, I am going to have a motion to receive and file this item, and
Motion to receive and file.
seconded by Councilmember Noakowski.
Item number 2, halal lunch options in Buffalo Public Schools.
Item,
And this is the item that we're going to leave on the table. I just saw in the chat, if someone did want to speak, if you could just, Hassan, if you could just speak for less than a minute and we'll keep going.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Bowman. Thank you. You are conducting this meeting, and I would like to thank all of the council members who has given us time to approve this our halal food. This is our religion matter. This is our belief, and really, your efforts. There is no word we can give you thanks, and I am very convinced from council members. So far, I have been hearing that I believe that the halal food is going to be implemented in our public school very soon. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. And this is the item we'll table.
motion to table.
Seconded by Councilmember Wyatt. Sean, we're going to call the item. I had it on my list as item number 7, but with regards to the DMV, it'll be item number 6.
Motion to take item 6 from the table. 6 and 7.
Item number 6, DMV report on auto tech program.
Items.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Curry, for hanging in there with us and waiting. We have a presentation from Pat Curry, who is with our New York State DMV Commissioner's Office, Commissioner Schroeder's office, and he is going to present to us about an auto tech program. So I'll give you the floor, Mr. Curry. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity. Happy to be here today to talk about the Excelsior Auto Tech Task Force, and I'll be sharing a presentation on this right now. So the Excelsior Auto Tech Task Force is an initiative of the New York State DMV, along with other New York State departments, including the Department of Education, Department of Labor, Department of Corrections, our SUNY school system, and our partners across the automotive industry. So in 2019, Governor Cuomo created this task force, and the mission and goal was to address the severe shortage of auto technicians in our state and across the nation, and make New Yorkers aware of this opportunities in the industry, and ensure that, you know, when they decide to pursue this, that they have the proper education and the most relevant and advanced training possible in our, you know, in our schools, both on the primary and secondary level, and right up until the training that they'll receive when they're on the job. Now, this is a shortage across the industry, and it's really hampering the state's ability to grow its economy, especially the automotive sector, which is struggling to expand. There'll be more dealerships able to expand, but currently there's a shortage of auto technicians, which hamper their ability. So Governor Cuomo wanted to make it clear that, you know, we have over 75,000 technician jobs out there. They're good jobs, they're high-paying jobs, and that New York State wants to educate our New Yorkers for those jobs right here in New York, and that this task force will be the goal. And many people, you know, aren't aware of the opportunities. As an auto technician, you can make up to 6 figures, and you're always going to be in demand for a job. And it's very portable job, I would say. You can go anywhere, and there's always going to be opportunities to be an auto technician and make a very good living. So we, there's two prongs to this approach that we're taking, encouraging more New Yorkers to pursue a career in auto tech. One is a multimedia public relations campaign promoting the benefits of the career in the industry. As I mentioned, there's a high earning potential. There's a great deal of demand out there for auto technicians. Plus, there's a very low-cost educational path. Most programs are two-year associate's degree programs, and they offer an opportunity to earn while you learn, which is an opportunity to work at a dealership or a repair shop while you're completing your education, and that way you make money while you're learning your trade. And oftentimes, when you complete your schooling, the dealership or company that you work for often takes you on as a full-time employee. Also, we want to provide direct engagement with students, parents, guidance counselors, school officials, other government partners like the Buffalo Common Council, just to educate everyone on the opportunities that are out there and point them in the right direction, if they would like to guide their students into pursuing this career. Once a student is interested, we want to make sure that they have the access to the most advanced and relevant training possible, including an emphasis on programs with curriculum provided directly from automakers. Now, New York State is committed to getting the automakers involved in this, and currently since the founding of the task force, we just had two more automakers come on board. Mercedes and VW are participating, which there's about a dozen automakers out there. 12 of the biggest automakers in the world are participating in New York schools. We want to strengthen that relationship so that when a student is learning about auto technician, they can get the information right from the companies on the cars they'll be working on, and it makes them more employable. If they're an expert in Toyota, there's Toyota programs, Ford, Chevy, and so on and so forth. It makes them very well equipped to pursue a career. So, another part of these manufacturing sponsored programs, these automaker sponsored programs, is it involves, as I mentioned, a opportunity to work for a dealership while you're completing your education. And it's a very, very good way to get the training on what you'll be doing is to work directly with the automaker and their dealer partners on that. And it's very advantageous for the student and allows them to really hit the ground running when they're a full-time employee. So the auto dealers associations have been very pivotal in this, and along with educators in the task force. They identified 5 goals in a meeting that they would pursue. One is end the stigma of auto tech. There's a perception out there that mechanics are in greasy garages and it's a real dirty, difficult job. But right now, the technology in our cars make this really a high-tech industry, one that's evolving rapidly, especially with electric vehicles coming into the equation very rapidly. And it's a very high-tech job, and you got to really know computers. We're pushing that, hey, if you like computers and you like working with your hands, this is a great opportunity. And you don't have to spend 4 years in college in order to get a career. You can get started right away with your education and working in the industry immediately. And then when you complete your education, there's very good opportunities out there, especially if you're already working for a dealer or a repair shop that's employing you during your training. So the another goal is to increase enrollment of auto tech programs. And right now, there's really just not enough students in the pipeline to meet the need out there. There's a very big demand, and we want to encourage more students to pursue this career in order to meet this demand and show them that there's really great opportunities for them. The other thing we want to do is expand and improve our academic programs. I talked a little bit about getting more automakers involved, and that's a pivotal part of this. And a lot of these schools across the state, I've visited almost all of them, they are having space issues. So investing and expanding it in capital improvements and equipment. As you can imagine, the technical equipment is very expensive, and we would like to support any efforts by education schools to increase the availability of those equipment in order to make sure that our students are learning on the most advanced and current equipment and tools out there. So the other another goal is number 4 is incentivize a career in auto tech. And so there are barriers along the way. The purchase of tools is one of them. Tools are very expensive, but we're looking at ways that we can incentivize students and provide them an easier path to purchasing these tools, or incentivize them in other ways to pursue a career as an auto technician, whether it be through scholarships or these work opportunities while they're in school. So any way that we can encourage it more and incentivize that, we're looking to do. And then 5 is identify other partners. That's one of the reasons I'm here today. I know that the council has a very close relationship in their community, a very close relationship with the school district out there. And we want to look at ways that we can work together in order to get the message out there about the quality opportunities in the field of automotive technicians, and ways that we can work together to make sure that the students that are pursuing this have access to the best training and the best equipment, and will be able to hit the ground running when they do begin their career. So that's my brief presentation on the Excelsior Auto Tech Task Force. There is a website that we've put together, dmv.ny.gov/autotech, that is a link to all the schools across New York that offer automotive technician programs, as well as some resources for finding employment in the industry and other training and other resources out there. I'll just pull up the website real quick for students out there who are interested in a career in auto technicians. And we're supporting this with the social media effort. We're looking to do a PSA soon on the advantages of an auto tech. But in this website, you can find a school, you can get other resources as far as pursuing a career, and it's a really very exciting career opportunity, I think, for students. And if we're trying to create the awareness out there that this is something that you can have a long and lucrative career as an auto technician, and it's a very good opportunity out there. So thank you for the opportunity to discuss this today, and I look forward to working with the council and the school district on this very important initiative.
Hey, thank you very much, Pat, for this presentation. The programs like these are important. I want to see more programs like these, giving opportunities to our students. Not everybody's meant to, go through their 4 years of college and have that path. So giving them, straight opportunities, like you said, to earn while you learn, that's amazing. Real quick, my father was a mechanic, and I kind of saw back in the day, he worked on my first car, and I saw how greasy and the rust in your eyes and all that stuff. But it's really a different game now. Like you said, it's a high-tech job with a good income. So it's different, and we can help get that message out to students and to the public. But I see Councilmember Wyatt, do you have a question?
Yeah, hey, good seeing you, Patrick.
You too.
Are you including Tesla in this whole program? I know you said you have a lot of auto dealers, auto companies that are involved. Is Tesla included as well?
Yes, Tesla has a very robust program at Suffolk Community College, and it's one of, I think, only 3 in the nation. So New York is very lucky to have Tesla participating, and they've been very supportive with curriculum, with vehicles, with equipment. And we're looking at ways to spread that participation by Tesla all across the state. And we have some exciting programs in the pipeline that about electric vehicles specifically that we're going to be rolling out, and that how we can get instructors from across the state trained on electric vehicles and being able to offer that training to their students, even right here at Erie Community College.
So the curriculum right now, is it hands-on or is it virtual?
So right now, pretty much there's 13 automotive programs in SUNY. All of them have some hands-on in-person learning at this point. Most are doing a hybrid at this point. So basically, the things you can do over the computer, learning about theories and anything you could do on the computer or on paper, they're doing that way. But being an auto technician, you gotta actually work with your hands. So the schools have been open. They're social distancing. They've been making sure it's a safe environment for students, but also allowing them to get their hands physically on these engines and on these vehicles in order to learn by doing. And so this hybrid model will probably continue at least until the end of this semester, if not into the future.
I know you mentioned that Suffolk, is it Suffolk County or Suffolk School that's
Yep.
upstate, right? Or downstate? Is that downstate?
Oh, it's downstate. It's on Long Island.
Okay.
So
So is there any conversation with Tesla about doing something? I mean, since their manufacturing plant is here, is that something that we may see in the future? Because I think that is a powerful piece right there, the electric cars and learning how to, repair them and those type of things.
yes, they have been very good partners, and we're constantly engaging them on ways that we can kind of improve this program and spread it to other areas of the state. And it's definitely something that we're working on moving forward.
Thank you, sir. Good seeing you.
You too.
All right. And Dr. Crestes was in some of our initial meetings regarding this, and they're very open to the program. Doctor, if you had any comments.
No, we have had some good meetings with Patrick. He's always been a great partner to the Buffalo Public Schools. I mean, auto tech happens to be one of our most popular CTE programs, career and technical education. So it's absolutely true that it's a career choice on the rise. And anything that we can do, Patrick, to continue being a good partner to this effort, just give me a call. You can count on us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And then Pat, one quick question before we wrap up. What are the next steps, or what would you need from us moving forward?
Just to keep the conversation going and work with the school district and also I'll keep you up to date on some of our social media efforts. We occasionally promote the task force, so if I'll alert you when that happens, and if you could share that on some social media channels to help get the word out there about this exciting career opportunities that are out there, that would be very beneficial, and we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we will keep this item on the table and continue the discussion.
Motion to table.
Seconded by Councilmember Wyatt. Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Councilmember Nowakowski.